spent the entire month of October doing one of my favorite series of talks, The Wizard of Oz, and we've gone into the metaphysical meaning of some of the aspects. There's a whole lot more of The Wizard of Oz. And so today we're going to conclude our trip of Over the Rainbow and bring it all home as we look at the concept that there really is no place like home. But before we do, we have, I have a few words of trivia about the Wizard of Oz, which I love this stuff. So cool. That's Lenny Mae, she usually knows all of this. Okay, so, what was the name of the horse that drew the carriage that Dorothy and the gang rode in on the entrance to Oz? What was his name?
A horse of different color.
A horse with different colors.
No.
Miracle?
It was Sylvester. Where else did we see this horse appear in this movie? We just saw the movie. Come on, guys, you just saw it.
Yeah, on the farm.
The cart.
At the carney, yes. Remember the carney that Dorothy went to when she ran away from home? He had a horse there, and his name was Sylvester. He used that name. Okay. What song was cut from the rainbow?
Somewhere in the rainbow.
Cut from the movie.
Over the Rainbow.
Yes! Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And why was it cut?
Too long?
Yeah. People thought it was too long. And look what I mean, we had it performed twice this month. It's such a beautiful song. Who was originally cast as the Tin Man?
Yes.
Yes. Why did he not continue?
He was allergic to the makeup.
He got lead poisoning from that Tin Man.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, back here, guys. But yes, it was great.
How many scenes were the Wizard and the Good Witch of the North in together?
5.
One? None. Remember, she was under the house.
Oh.
That's tricky to think of.
Yeah.
Okay,
What was the original color of the ruby red slippers?
Silver.
Oh,
They were silver. Why were they changed?
Technicolor.
Yep. First time we used, I think it was the first time we used Technicolor. So, which is like mind-blowing for the people that went to see the movie the first time. So red showed up better. And how did the author Frank Baum come up with the land of Oz?
file cabinet.
Yeah,
So
but how?
usually on a file cabinet.
Yeah. Yeah, he was reading a story to some children, and one day one of one child said, what was the name of the land? And he didn't know, and he's looking around, and he's got file cabinets in the room, and what does it go to? A to M, and then O to Z. So he said Oz. O to Z. Isn't that fascinating? That's great. That's how we got Oz. The land of Oz.
That's great.
So today we're going to look at the idea that there really is no place like home. T.S. Eliot once wrote these wonderful lines: "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive at the place where we started, to know the place for the first time." And that's what we're going to move through today. What does it really mean? Well, the story of Dorothy shows us very, very clearly how, right from the very beginning of the story, how she goes on and even when she goes on her adventure over the rainbow, she's looking to go home the whole time. Even when she's in her physical home, she's looking to go home. She's looking outside of herself. And so I don't mean a physical home, because she's there already, but she's feeling empty. She's feeling empty, she's feeling unhappy, she's feeling unfulfilled. or not loved, and she's ignored by everybody on the farm, including her Auntie Em and Uncle Frank. And now she's gotten herself in trouble with the law. And actually, she didn't get in trouble, Toto did. But she, again, it was her vibe for attention, even with Toto, because she allowed him to run through that neighbor's lawn. But Dorothy sets it up, as I just said, as a ploy for attention. So she's never really feeling at home. She's feeling like she's yearning for something more. And so from a metaphysical interpretation, she doesn't know who she is. She has no idea who she is. She's not connected to her inner spark. And if you remember last week, our ruby red slippers are a symbol of our inner spark. So whenever you see red shoes again, I want you to represent to you your inner spark, that divinity within you. And she's looking for her greatness and her potential and all the goodness. And it's all there within her, but she's not aware of it. She's lost contact with God, the God of her being. And I remember, and I'm sure most of you might have gone through this many years ago when, I was in a room full of people and gifts. It was Christmas, and like lots of family and tons of gifts, and there was still an emptiness, a yearning. Even though all this stuff was outside of me, within me was like what I now refer to as my God hole. There was no connection. That's why Christmas Eve service is so important to me, and why we do Christmas Eve service. Because on Christmas Eve, I went looking, and it was in the date, it was Christmas Day. I went looking for a church or something, because I didn't know about New Thought, I didn't know about Buddhism, I didn't know about any of that stuff. So I'm looking to connect with something that I didn't have a name for, because I didn't know about New Thought centers. And I'm sure many of us might have had the same feeling, something more than ourselves. What I come to find, it's really community that I love to be in. The community, and a community that resonates with me. One where I can relax and feel the love in the room, where we can talk about spiritual truths and something we can actually utilize in our lives. And it's our awareness that ignites it, our awareness to get to the place, because people can keep telling you stuff, but you're not going to get it until you really get it. And so Dorothy keeps going looking for home outside of herself. When she's in Kansas, she's looking everywhere on that farm for love, for acceptance, for some kind of acknowledgement. And then when she gets up to Oz, she's looking in Oz for all kinds of it, to the wizard. Well, when I get to the wizard, it's like when we say, if I get this, and if I get that, then I'll finally feel fulfilled. That's a big word, fulfillment. I'll finally feel like everything's right in my world. It won't happen until we fill it up with that inner spark and knowing and trusting that it's alive within us. So she meets up with this carney. Remember the carney, the wizard, or you could read into the crystal ball, and he's got like the, I don't know what they call the carriage thing with whatever he is, Professor Carney on it, and he's got the horse, Sylvester the horse. He's there too. And she's asking him, and he sees something fearful in that crystal ball. He sees that Auntie Em is crying out and looks like she's having a heart attack. So now Dorothy is returning back to Kansas, but now she's filled with fear. She wasn't in that much fear before, and now she's really in fear. And now she's also in fear of the weather that's blowing around. And when she gets home and she's calling out the names, everybody's in that cellar, right? Because a tornado was coming. And so it's closed and locked, and she can't even get in. And her fears have moved her even further away, because fears do that, from who she really is, When you're in fear, you cannot even connect with who you really are until you learn that you are a divine spark of God. So she's left out in the storm, supposedly alone. So her explorations continue. And now she journeys over to Oz. And Dorothy once again looks outside of herself to try to find out who she is and how to get home. Because she wants to get home, feeling home. She's really, and this is really a pointed lesson in how we might get through one experience only to have it show up again. Anyone ever do that? Different experience, same feeling. Perhaps it's time then we get this message. When we have patterns showing up in our lives, it's time for us to really go within. It's the only place we're going to get the solution. We're going to change it, to go for a new cause. And that can only come from within. It can't come from the effects. And remember, everything outside of us is effects. Cause is within us. Our soul is trying to give us information all of the time. And we're always in the progress of awakening. And every event in our lives has the potential to serve as a catalyst for that awakening. Every experience we go through, we have to ask ourselves, what is in this that I am to learn? Because you will learn from it. But if we don't really clear up the cause of those effects, they're going to keep showing up again and again, and maybe even in Technicolor. We don't want Technicolor. Not in those spheres, no. In Oz, Dorothy still doesn't wake up, and she looks to a pretty shady character, the wizard. The wizard's going to provide a way home. The wizard knows, only the wizard knows. She continues to look for him, even after Toto exposed him when because he was that carny, remember? He was the carny guy down there reading into the crystal ball, and Toto kept pulling stuff away to show her, look, this guy is a fraud, but she didn't listen, even to him, because she's so pining for a way home. The wizard promises to take her back to Kansas in his balloon. But it is only after the balloon takes off. Remember, he's up in the balloon, and without Dorothy, and he reveals, I don't know how to work it anyway. He never knew. But we do that in life, don't we? We give our focus to other people to inspire us, to direct us, to take us home, when it can only come from within us. We can be inspired, we can be guided, but we have to do the work. We have to do the work within us. And Dorothy keeps looking outside of herself for home. But when Glinda tells her, you've always had the power to go back to Kansas, right from the very beginning, she doesn't really feed into that because she doesn't believe it. She doesn't believe, and we can keep hearing the same spiritual truths over and over again, but unless we believe them, they're not gonna enter into us. We're not gonna really buy in. And it's all about moving into and awakening our inner power and our greatness, our inner spark. And that's what she's looking for. She's looking for her own potential, for greatness. And in that moment, she finds it within herself when she begins to wake up. And she does toward the end, she begins. But she doesn't go home yet. She doesn't go home yet. She has something very important to do. She has to stop. This is at the end, remember the end part. And she's starting to get that she has the power. But first she's got to say goodbye to all of those characters who we can see as qualities of God within her. So Perhaps in those sweet, intimate moments when she's talking to each of them, saying goodbye, connecting with the scarecrow and the lion, and the one she'll miss the most, the Tin Man. She wasn't saying goodbye. She was integrating her, all those qualities, the divine wisdom, the unconditional love, and the power, and the courage and power. She was integrating all of those qualities that those characters represented into her own being, because those are all part of who we are. And remember, the scarecrow represented the divine intelligence. The Tin Man was the unconditional love. We went over that last week. And the lion, the infinite courage. And those are each and every one of our qualities. And they're within us at all times for us to look. We look to outer circumstances constantly. Our job, our relationships, our this, our that, to bring us peace, to bring us to that place called home. But they never will. Never. They won't. Because the love is always within us. And I can't say this enough. It's always within us, and we need to trust it, to know that we are divine beings, that divinity within us, that goes on forever. And like I've said before, the bodies are probably inside of that divine energy. To be awake to our true self, to go home, there must be an integration of the divine intelligence, of that unconditional love, and of that power and courage of who we truly are. The power and courage of who we are. And to put a spiritual spin on it, in those moments, Dorothy finds God, who was actually there the whole time. God was there the whole time. His divine intelligence was there the whole time, symbolically hanging out in a pink bubble. It was there, it kept showing up, but it was there the whole time. She feels God. Dorothy feels God when she sees Glinda. She sees God. She sees the beauty, the courage, the strength, the wisdom. She sees the love right there in Glinda. It was closer to her than her hands and feet, nearer than her breath. It was right there the whole time. And Glinda explains to Dorothy that she did not share the truth with her because she never would have believed her before. She had to wake up to that possibility, but she always had the power. And if you remember, one of last week's Ruby Slipper lessons was, we are not let alone, we are left alone. No, we're not left alone, we're let alone. We're never left alone. There's always a divine companion. There's always our divinity. We're never alone. We're never alone. But we're let alone so that we can have that freedom of choice, that freedom to discover who we really are. Because we won't believe it until we discover it ourselves. And just to expand on that for a moment, self-awareness cannot be taught. It can't be taught. It must be learned from experience. We must learn it from experience. As the Zen poet Jeremy Wolfe so eloquently wrote, experience isn't the best teacher, it is the only teacher. There is nothing else, truly. We have to go through it in order to learn it. So Holmes takes this a little step further in his book, Science of Mind. And he says, we give intelligence outlet either by pure inspiration and intuition, or by the way of bitter experience. And most of us go through the latter, don't we? We're inspired, we feel good, we leave a lecture, or we leave whatever it is, a class or whatever, and we're all inspired, and we forget. But when we go through it and bitter experiences, and then when we apply these spiritual truths that we know of, then we really get it. So that's getting it through Technicolor, which is not the only way to get it. So let's just leave it to that inspiration now. We're awake. Everyone in this room is awake and aware of their inner spark. So now it's like, let's get even closer to it with inspiration. Dorothy certainly went through some bitter experiences, didn't she? But the awakening came, the integration came through her experiences, and then one thing remained before she could go home. One thing. She needed to trust. She still hadn't trusted in her own self. She was trusting everyone else, but she needed to trust herself. She needed to activate that trust by clicking her heels. And that's some pretty powerful metaphysical statement for us. It truly is. We need to trust that we are divine, and we need to trust that that divine law is always at work. That divine law is love and law. That's what this divine energy is. It's love, which leads the way, and it's law, which activates everything. It's the doer of every idea, every thought, every feeling that we have. So going home and knowing the place for the first time takes some trust. It takes some trust. It takes an integration of love, of wisdom, and of courage. It takes an integration of all of those things. And it takes our awareness to realize that there is an inner spark. Going home is about waking up. It's about waking up to the spiritual path of self-discovery, of discovering who we truly are. Because before these teachings, I thought I was all of my effects, all of my conditions, how I looked, how I felt. I didn't know it was so much more. And when you start integrating these experiences into your lives and really getting, because you just get deeper and deeper. You never just arrive at a place. The yellow brick road, it goes on forever. It doesn't stop at the land of Oz. Okay, you're not I'm not enlightened. You might get enlightened. Not fully enlightened, you know. But we'll discover ourselves from the sickness and the discovery in exact proportion of how we trust ourselves and how we deepen our true relationship with the divine. So that's how we get home. But right now I would like to just bring it a little deeper into all of us, a short meditation.